Okay, welcome everyone. We'll call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, as we go into our roll call, just like to congratulate those two new members and welcome Mr. Miller and Mr. Jenkins to the board. Thank you. Kim, roll call.
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, approval of the agenda, resolved that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the May 22nd, 2023 regular Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion? Move. Matt?
Second.
Ellie? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 8. Seven.
Tony.
Oh,
Sorry.
Tony's on the, sorry, Tony. Welcome, Tony. Okay, with that, I will hand over to Dr. Davis for the Board of Education spotlight.
Good evening, everyone. The Board of Education will recognize and honor the following Baldwinsville Central School District students for their outstanding achievements and accomplishments. OCM BOCES inducted 33 Baldwinsville students into the National Technical Honor Society on April 11th. Inductees represent the best of students enrolled in career and tech education programs. We recognized several inductees at our last board meeting, and we would like to take the time to recognize 2 more students from this group, Brianna Southworth and Nathan Saint. Students who qualify must have an 85 average or higher, 12 or fewer absences from their program for the year, and receive a teacher endorsement. Students must also demonstrate respect, honesty, skill, responsibility, leadership, service, and citizenship. Brianna could not be with us tonight, but we would like to congratulate her for her hard work in early childhood education at OCM BOCES. Nathan Saint is a senior at Innovation Tech and is studying automotive technology. In addition to being inducted into the National Technical Honor Society, Nathan was also inducted into the National Honor Society. Dr. DeBarbary and I had the honor to attend the ceremony early this month. Nathan, we are proud of you and all of your accomplishments. Tonight, we are recognizing and honoring the hard work and talent of Charlotte Dubois. An 8th grader at Durgee, Charlotte is a Girl Scout cadet in Troop 10210 and a member of the NYPENN Pathways Council. She recently named one of the winners the Girl Scouts to the Moon and Back National Essay Contest. Charlotte was one of 81 winners from across the country. She was awarded a Girl Scout badge that traveled 1.4 million miles to the moon and back aboard NASA's Artemis 1 mission in late 2022. So with that said, Shelley, our board member, is going to be calling up our students for recognition.
So we'll start first with Charlotte. Why don't you come on up, we'll get a photo. Congratulations. And we know Brianna's not here, but we have Nathan. Nathan, come on up. Congratulations.
And on behalf of the board, congratulations again to both of you and good luck in the future. With that, this is normal, if you haven't been to a board meeting before, this is normally the time when you are more than welcome to leave, and we'll continue on with our normal business meeting, but you are also more than welcome to stay. So thank you again for coming and congratulations. Okay. With that, we'll move on to correspondence and board activities. Leading off here, we would like to thank the community for all their support. Both the budget vote and the capital project and all other items on the up for approval on the vote passed. And again, I'd like to thank everyone for their support there. Congratulations to the 4 new board members. You see the 2 we have on the board now, and then the other 2 will be joining in July. So again, congratulations to everybody, and we look forward to the progress from those projects in the district in the near future.
Just wanted to point out also that if I'm not mistaken, we had a kind of an overwhelming number of voters in comparison to the rest of the region. So, you know, we should be very proud of our community for coming out and exercising it, right?
Yeah, good point. We had more voters in some districts that are larger than us, so it was nice to see. We had a special board meeting the day after to announce the results of the vote. So that was a quick one there on Wednesday. And then Monday today, we had earlier today a policy committee meeting. Who would like to come in? Sam? Michelle?
Sure. Sorry. Sam and I were in attendance this afternoon. We did request that going forward we have some more policy meetings scheduled for the next school year, since policy is the Board of Education's one of the #1 roles in our position is overseeing policy. So we're requesting that be additional meetings be scheduled. There's 2 policies that have been up for review, 3420 and 3421. We were advised by legal on 3420 it wasn't necessary, so we're going to be retiring that, and it's incorporated into our policy 3421. In paralegal, we're holding off on that, in so much that the U.S. Department of Ed is publishing this next month some different guidelines and updates so that we're in compliance with that. We did start on our 5,000 series. I think we maybe got halfway through, but we're also finding that some of the policies are not required. So what we're proposing to do is to hold the policies that aren't required, have them all be sent to legal at one time, have them review things and come back to us and advise whether or not we actually need those policies. There are a certain number of policies that are required by law, and we have an additional amount of policies that we have, so we're trying to work on that. Sam, I'm going to hand it off to you.
And then we're going to start with embedding some of the regulations in our required 5,000 series so that they will match up with the policies that we currently have that are required. We're going to start that work and then continue on with the other series. We also had a discussion about a potential resolution through the NISWA convention addressing the pre-K and the K start date of moving it from December 1st to September 1st. And just to put that in the back of the mind, maybe start thinking about that. We would have to act on it before July 14th because that's the date that it needs to be submitted. So currently, December 1st is the cutoff date for 5-year-olds to start kindergarten and 4-year-olds to start UPK. So moving it to September 1st for UPK and pre-K would kind of maybe help with that gray area of those 3 months for parents or families that want to maybe hold their child back.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, tonight's public hearing on both the code of conduct and the safety plan. So, looking ahead.
I just wanted to also add, with your permission, on May 16th, in addition to the annual vote and election, Baker High School also hosted a cultural fest. It was a really fabulous event, and I want to thank the administrators at Baker, Jennifer Turpinning, Margaret McRobbie-Teru, also Director Tony Cardamone, who oversees the DEI committee. I can tell you it was just a celebration of students, culture, language, lots of food, so much food. I won't go into details about how much food I ate, but it was just a wonderful representation of the diversity, the language, and just the human spirit and condition that was just represented in that space. Also to the students who saw the I think it was the consignment store. I also thank them for being so kind and gracious on that evening. So it was a great night. So I just wanted to celebrate all of you.
Thank you, Tony. And I believe we have Tony on the line there with his hand up.
I do. I apologize for my voice. I just wanted to, again, give a thank you, congratulations to all the athletes who competed in the Special Champions event on the 15th. I saw, a few of my board colleagues there as well. I was there as a parent, of course. I can't thank the staff and administration for all that they do for that event. I know the student athletes, it's nothing but smiles across the board. It's such a great event, and I know it's just going to get bigger and better as the years go on. But Dr. Davis, Dr. DeBarbery, all the staff, all of the cabinet, everybody who participated, thank you so much for putting that on for our students. It is also a great representation of what we can do and what we do as a community, so thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you everyone that put that on. The perfect day for that. Anything else before we move on to upcoming events? Yeah. With that, CNY annual dinner this week. I believe a couple of us are signed up to attend that. I see our last two board meetings of the school year show up here. One thing to note, in between Juneteenth and our last board meeting, we do have graduation scheduled, so hopefully that will be on Friday. We'll keep our fingers crossed for the weather, but hopefully we get lucky 3 years in a row. So looking forward to that. So anything else before we move on?
Jeff, I just want to make a notation for upcoming meetings. The Wellness Committee meeting that's scheduled for Thursday, May 25th at 7 a.m. I just received notice today that that's been rescheduled, canceled.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a new date or?
We can adjust the agenda
Okay.
for that so that Board Docs reflects it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, unfortunately, Azan is not feeling well today, so he won't be able to provide the student voter report today. So we will move on from that. I did not receive anything to pass on there, so we'll have an extra good one next meeting. Request to speak. Kim, any?
There are none this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Just on to the consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Sam, Matt? Any questions?
I just had a quick comment. In the consent agenda, I had inquired about the UPK teacher for Van Buren, and we were provided some information from Dr. Davis this evening with a breakdown of the current buildings who currently have UPK sections in their building. And I was inquiring about Van Buren, and it's indicated that there's some fluctuation next year in their capacity because one of the grade level sections is reducing. So that opens up, my understanding is correctly, opens up the availability for a classroom to host a UPK classroom. And in the event following year, Dr. Davis and Dr. DeBarbery were indicating that the other buildings, if that need be, if it's still, if it is an issue, that there's room for other places within the buildings in the district.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks for that information. Okay.
Yeah. Can I just ask a question on some of the budget transfers I see, which is pretty common this time of year, but I just was wondering, can you have a philosophy on when you're transferring from to what you're looking at, different line items, or how you decide where you're taking it from?
Sure, so Tiffany Turner adjusts a lot of the budget transfers. Obviously, we know that we go forward with a spending plan is what our voters just approved, and then we break that down by line item. And to your point, by this time of year, we're kind of predicting or projecting where those lines are gonna be. So yes, we do definitely have some fund balance built into lines, so that when we get to this point in the year, that's a lot of what you see are lines that we had fund balance adjusted. So when we cannot do something that is within the same code area, then we're starting to pull from those lines that we know we have fund balance built into.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else on the consent agenda? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes 8-0. Okay, with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Davis for leadership reports.
We have two reports tonight. The first one is the Wellness Committee report, and then we're having our, Mrs. Rice, you're going to be helping to present, along as Mrs. Foote. And we also have kindergarten readiness as well. Danielle will be presenting that afterwards. Thank you.
I'm getting better at this. All right, so I'm just going to review the 22-23 year wellness. My name is Kristen Foote, and I do co-chair the Wellness Committee with Anna Rice. We have membership stakeholders from across the areas, and that's kind of, it's actually dictated through the wellness policies. We try to get someone from each of those different areas that you see up there. All right, and what we're going to review is the goals that we set this year were to update and score our wellness policy, to help coordinate, provide school health and wellness for the students, coordinate and provide school health and wellness for the staff. And I'm going to reference some materials that Christine All uploaded into the executive content area, which it would include the newsletter and staff inquiry and some other information that we gave out this year. All right. So the wellness policy was revised in 21-22. So we rewrote it, submitted it to the Board of Ed, and we used a tool called the WellSat, which is what the USD and the DA and the CDC recommend. And the WellSat it measures our written policy. It kind of, it talks to what the policy looks like if we have all of the information that the USDA and the CDC want us to have in there. And so from that, this year we implemented the WellSat 1.0, and that actually is a set of interview questions which measures how fully our district is carrying out the wellness policy. Okay, so first we revised wellness policy using the results from the WellSat 3.0, and then this year we just measured what we're doing and how it reflects on the policy. There were 58 items we reviewed in the scorecard, and all the stakeholders were given a set of interview questions. Some of them they can answer themselves, some had to go to principals, and health teachers to kind of get the information. And when we got it back, there was, and it's sort of scored. District has a strong or weak policy, but practice implementation is either absent or limited. District has either not addressed policy or has addressed the topic limitedly. The district has a strong and is fully implementing practices that align with policy, and the district has fully implemented a practice, but there's no or limited language in the written policy. Or the district is partially implementing practices. So it's kind of comparing what we're doing with the wellness policy. And I'm going to talk about the last two scores, that the fully implementing practices and the fully implementing practice, but there's no or limited language. So many of the items that we updated and submitted in the policy weren't even part of the WellSat 1. So for example, at the beginning of last year, we didn't have Farm to School, and Donna's bringing that in. So next year, when we assess it, we'll get a 2.0. So I feel, and Jackie Shostak, who is from the Department of Health, she reviewed our policy, and she says, she said it's very fluid, very strong. The other, the last note, really our policy uses a softer language. So that's why we didn't score it as high. You know, for example, they would like you to say, we restrict any type of food at a celebration. So we didn't write, we will restrict that. We are prohibited. We wrote, we recommend, we strongly recommend. Right? And it's the same thing with, you know, they want you to use, and I think the district is getting rid of this, just like physical activity as a reward, as opposed to something like, you know, lunch or anything to do with food. All right. And I will tell you, I looked up today, I think it was 2004 that I started on the committee, and I say this every year, we've improved by leaps and bounds. I think people are just more healthy and looking at wellness. But I also don't believe, and nor does New York State, that you have to say you can't. Does that make sense? Also, we don't have anybody who would really monitor that anyways. Any questions about that? All right, and so the second goal was really to continue to provide staff with information and activities surrounding the areas of wellness that would include social, emotional, nutritional, and physical wellness. Things that can be used in the classroom. And we use our newsletter and our district wellness library, which is a compilation of videos and actually there's some yoga classes on there, and just podcasts and information that reflect some of these areas of wellness, as does our newsletters. And so this year we had nutrition information resources, including the Smart Snack Calculator, which teachers could disseminate to parents. So if you're having, you know, the party in the classroom and they want to bring something that really falls within the Smart School Smart Snack Calculator, they can go right on and kind of look to see if what they're bringing matches up with the Smart Snack Calculator. We do always, I think every newsletter, we talk about something they can do in the classroom as far as movement. And definitely, we include activities that promote mindfulness in the classroom. Across the district and our schools, actually it should be just elementary, or Reynolds Elementary School was involved in the grant. I know that last year I talked about the fact that the Onondaga County Health Department, we were given a grant from the Healthy Schools and Communities grant, and so I know Jackie Shostak was working with Colleen Natali. And this year at Reynolds, they brought in a quarter-mile indoor fitness trail. And it's kind of cool because it's a quarter mile and kids can stop and they'll say do, you know, 5 push-ups or jump high, and Colleen said it's been awesome, especially in the winter. right, when you can't get out. So, then teachers have been using it as well. I did, our liaison to that grant did retire this year, but I did give the new person, Lauren Don from Ray, I gave her email, so maybe they can connect with Ray this year and use some of that grant money. As you probably know, there are wellness groups, wellness clubs in every one of the elementary schools as well. All right. And our third goal, as always, is to continue to provide information and resources which support wellness and self-care for staff. And we do this again through the newsletter and the Wellness Library. The newsletter, we did 2 newsletters this year, and I included them in your, exactly, yes, thanks. And again, the Wellness Library is filled with some great information. Lots of videos, some are mine, breathing exercises. We did talk at our last meeting that maybe people aren't accessing it as much as we would like, and I think the Wellness Committee is going to work on that a little bit more next year. All right, and I always like to do something fun, and PDC days, and so in the fall we had apples and chocolate, and a little wellness reminder, and in the spring we advertised our mindful challenge, and that I included in your docs as well. And if you ever need to, you need 21 days to like meditate or watch the sunrise in Sanibel Island, you can go to that challenge. And it really, I'm not certain how many people did the challenge. I know there was definitely somebody at Ray, but I'd like to put that out there because you can access it. And Colleen Natalia at Reynolds, she's always, they do pick up all there, but Lauren Tom started pickleball at Ray for the teachers, and she was so excited that people would come before school and do that. And I have to give a shout out to Jen Turbining, because this year for Teacher Appreciation, she did self-care. But she didn't do it, like she offered it through, it was almost like a little bingo card. And if you filled the card with, it was like compliment someone, really easy things. You come down and get a little prize. And she said to me, she said, 25 people walked. And I have to tell you, for a baker, I think that's very, very good. So, promoting health and self-care is, it's a personal thing. Some people don't want it shoved down their throat. It has to be authentic. And I think Jen did a really good job with that. And of course, we always give a staff survey on, we don't call it a survey actually, it's an inquiry on health and wellness. And that is also included. And I'd encourage you to look at it. So this year, we had 211 people participate. And we asked different questions. And so the first question is always, what information do you want to know? And we use this to develop the newsletters and anything that we might do before a PDC day. And like always, it was stress management, healthy recipes, and nutrition. And then they asked, like, how would you like to access this? And typically it's all newsletter. There were a couple, and you'll see this, a couple of people did say PDC workshops. I know the workshops have to be connected to student learning, and I know that you have happy teachers. The students, they're happier and more energy. So I always think that really does connect. And this was interesting. 41% of the people who answered the questions are feeling more stress than previous years. But this year, and I talked about this at our wellness meeting, there were more comments about life stress because of life outside of school, family stress. I'm taking care of my parents, which I just thought was different. And I don't have access to the inquiry from last year, but I just noticed that usually everybody's complaining about school and schedules, and they're without, you'll see, but a lot of the stress outside school. One of the questions we ask is, what would you find most helpful to support your mental health in and out of school? And I also, we talked about this, I don't know if it's because I put in the question, connection with colleagues. There was an overwhelming connection with colleagues, answer, and I just don't know if you put that in the question, if that's, in a bunch of load, so that's the answer, but there was, and when we talked about this in our wellness meeting, I don't know what that connection looks like. It just said connection with colleagues, and somebody said, is that connection after school? Is that connection at night? Is it a dinner with colleagues, or is it collaboration? So I think that's something that the committee can work on, kind of delving into what that connection looks like. We talked about mental health supports outside of school, and at our last meeting, we did talk about the fact that there are supports, and maybe we have to work a little bit better at connecting people to the resources for those supports. We talked a little bit about EAP. And many of the staff commented on school-based wellness practices, which, if you heard me speak before, I absolutely support. Life out once you leave home, it can be really crazy. And I guess I always feel like if we can offer things, I'm not sure what that looks like. I keep looking for the model, and if we can offer things in a building, I think people want to be acknowledged authentically. They want to know that you care, and they want to know that you understand that wellness is tough and self-care is tough as well. So take a look at the inquiry. You got to read the comments. It was in December, so maybe that had something to do with it.
No, and I appreciate that, and emphasizing the importance of finding balance, because it is not easy. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm wondering is, would we be able, since we're going through the 5,000 series, could we reference or use the data? We just have a dialogue to help sort of reevaluate the policy number 5665, which is the wellness policy. I wonder if we can use that as a tool or a resource or reference for next time, if that's possible.
Yep, we can take that information to the policy committee.
The only thing I will tell you is when I put out the inquiry, I tell the teachers and the staff that their information will be shared with the administration. And I think I would say just the comments and some of the anecdotals, we don't know, it's totally confidential. But I do say that it's shared with Board of Education Administration. And I don't know if people would be upset with if their comments were shared. Does that make sense?
No, and I appreciate that. And I think to your point, if there are recommendations, if you reference, some, and looking at the language, right? Do we generalize too much, or do we take I wouldn't say tougher stance, or we need to be more explicit, what our expectations when we're talking about different areas of our health. So I think referencing that would be a real valued asset to the work, and hopefully a conversation with those who participate would be willing to say, we'll give you recommendations on, there's boundaries, so I want to honor and respect that, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's,
Hi.
Matt.
How are you? Thanks for the report. Your committee, when I was on it, still going. I'm glad to see that you continue every year to ask the staff, what can we do better for you? What can we do better for your students? And I know that you always try to fulfill that, through the means that you have available. What kind of standouts do you think you need additional support that's more institutionalized? Do you have anything that stands out in terms of, from a district level, what staff would like to see? I mean, I know you talked about the acknowledgement, some of those kinds of things.
You know, it's hard, Matt, because I think it's very, even to the different schools, right? I know years ago, I was looking at old notes, and even when Jeannie was here, we were talking about, Van Buren Parks and Recs coming into the school, because you have to contract out. It wouldn't be like I couldn't go and teach in a aerobics class after school. I think that sort of thing, and I think, honestly, if there was the thought that you were going to move forward with some of that information, I think asking people what they want, what they need. They will say time, right? And when Jen was talking about, what are some of the things we could do as rewards, I said, oh, could you do like not a plan, but a duty pass? And she said, no. But people will say, I need time. And we can't necessarily give them time, but if you did have a way, even I know at the high school, one of the faculty rooms is sort of a calm room. The class of 2021, we bought loungers, and it looks nice, and people will go in there. But I think it's really individual, and that's why I look every year for grants, for something to bring that stuff in, because as you know, I'm very passionate about that.
I appreciate that. I mean, it's good to know, because as the discussion goes on, if there are ways to accomplish things, we can always talk about them. So I appreciate you bringing that up. The question I had was going back to I forget what the 1.0 thing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get, I wasn't quite clear. It almost seemed to me like there were two areas that kind of brought that. One was the clarity of policy, so you addressed that, but the other one almost seemed like we had policy, but people really weren't aware, or they didn't feel like it was being implemented. Is that correct?
Right, yes.
Okay.
And so the stakeholders do the interview. And so what I really did was just take that. In my mind, I'm thinking, yes, we have water. We have water all over the building, but I took that information because maybe people don't know that. And what they recommend is you look and see, is it one building, two buildings? They recommend that, it's not required. But then, again, what we'll do now is complete this worksheet 4, which really dives into all of that. And Jackie Shostak, who just retired, gave me some pointers on that as well. So.
All right, thanks.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I appreciate it.
Kristen, I just want to say thank you. I know all the energy that you bring to all the meetings and the concern you have for every staff member in this district. And you're always thinking and trying to figure out things to make things better for the staff. So thank you.
I just wanted to follow up if I could. With the connection with colleagues, I know at the meeting we had talked about trying to come up with some ideas. I was just wondering if anybody gave feedback on things that we could do to help them improve that. And just sidebar, I listened to like a podcast recently, and they were talking about loneliness and how people, like the amount of people that feel loneliness. So I thought it kind of correlated, and it was interesting to hear how that's increasing with social media and cell phones and all that other, people are seeming to be more isolated. So I think that may be where it's coming from, but we talked about the walk, run. I wasn't sure if there was any other ideas that came up.
So I put the walk, run, they talk about it's not the corporate challenge anymore, I'm not sure what it's called. We did it years ago, I think we did it one year. But it's tough to do that because it's a lot of coordination. It's at the end of the year, it costs like $40. But maybe looking at a way to fundraise for that for next year. But I put it in the newsletter, and I actually did email a couple people to say, hey, would you have set this up, and responses. But And I don't know if you were here, I talked to the fact that we need to go back to staff and say, when you say we want more connections, what does that look like? What does that mean?
And my thought on that topic, that was the one that jumped out at me too, because, you know, at work, where I work, we see that a lot, that it feels like you're not connected as well as we used to be, and people don't even leave their desk now to join a meeting, where being in a room together makes a big difference. But maybe one thing this board might want to consider next year is just how to maybe incorporate that into goals, if that's important to us. And I don't know how it would be implemented or measured or anything, but just something that has to do with making better connections amongst the colleagues and making Baldwinsville a little better place to work and be. So it might be something to consider for those on the board next year.
Thanks, Jeff. And that, like I said, that you probably understand your podcast, connections are very personal. You know, one of the podcasts I listened to talked about the connection you have with the person that gives you coffee every day. And you don't really realize that that's a connection, but it really is. And maybe getting some information from their staff and teachers, and, you know, even people in food service connecting with people. You know, I think sometimes you guys feel a little isolated as well. But just making those connections. Authenticity and letting people know that you're concerned about something is, you know, what it's all about.
Validation.
Kristen, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you put into this committee. Even though there may not be a large response, even if it's hitting one or two people, and that continues to grow. And I've seen that even my second year on this committee. I stop and reflect the little note card that you brought, or the sunsets. You find those things. So even though there may not be a large following or support, I don't think I'm using the right words, but what you do reaches, even if it's a couple people, it's a great committee, and what you bring forward to it. And the newsletters are great because I love how you ask for different representatives from different buildings to input on that. So it's not always coming from one source. You get different pieces from different people's perspectives. So I think it's a great committee, and it does a lot of great work for our staff, our teachers, our support. So thank you.
Mrs. Rice, you have a presentation on food service.
Hi, good evening. My name is Donna Rice. I'm the school lunch director, and I have a quick overview of what occurred this year in the food service department. We may as well jump right in. There were some challenges and still continue to be challenges in the department. COVID seems to be in the rearview mirror, as we say, but with regards to daily operations in the food service department, there's two big factors that have impacted us throughout the school year. One is food prices, as you all know. Food costs have skyrocketed, as well as availability. We still are struggling on a daily basis with products and securing products for our menus. I just wanted to touch on a little bit very quickly about the food costs, just a quick little snippet that pre-pandemic, this gives you gives you something tangible to hold on to. Pre-pandemic, a carton of milk was 21 cents. Today, a carton of milk is 36 cents. So that just tells you how far our food costs have jumped. Paper products have been a big source of impact on our food costs. Those are jumping up at around 18% increase in paper products. And that is huge impact to us because we use disposable trays for all of our meals. The other part of the challenges, like I said when I started, is procuring the items that we need. I commend our staff, and I will commend them through this whole presentation. On a daily basis, our best laid plan is that we have laid out a menu a month in advance, and when it comes to that actual meal occurring, we'll get a out of stock or a discontinued item, And then the replacement items that are offered are at a significant increase in price. So we really have to do our best to be magicians and, put together something on short notice. So bringing that to the forefront, I think, gives some perspective for those people that have heard things about menu items not being available or added selections in our monthly offerings. So, I hope that as we move along, that loosens up a little bit, but in the foreseeable future, I think it's still gonna be impactful in the upcoming school year. The other challenge that we did have this school year, and it's been a big one, is staffing. Our food service department is, they have worked diligently all year long and have been short-staffed since we started. We band together. They have been flexible. They are willing to come in and do whatever it takes to get the job done. But we are still short. We, at this time, could hire 8+ food service members to the team. We have talked a little bit about some solutions on that. I think we are going to reach out and do another upcoming media blitz. We're also trying to do some PR with our current staff to try and encourage those that are out there looking for work, how great it is to come and be part of our food service department, and then wrap up possibly with a food job fair. And we'll try and partner with some of the other departments that are struggling for help as well. I wanted to update on universal meals. As you know, the waivers expired on all of our meals, and we were back to the pre-COVID designations of free and reduced and paid. With that, ADP followed suit. Pre-pandemic, we were hovering around 40%. During the pandemic, when meals were free to all students, we were above 60% in our average daily participation. Moving into this school year, we settled right back into where we were before the pandemic, and we are still hovering around 38 to 40%. Part of this directly correlates with the, our revenue is directly correlated to the reduction of USDA funding. So all of our efforts are still surrounding trying to advocate for universal feeding at this time. All of our organizations are 100% behind it. There is some rumblings, but at this time, it's still on track to stay paid and free and reduced as our designations. One of the things I wanted to quickly touch on, I know that there was some rumblings that came out of the governor's office about funding that was all proposed. None of that has been put in place. The meals and the proposal was not for free meals. It was for increased participation for those that qualify for free and reduced meals. It's not on that paid portion. And at this point, there has not been any concrete information given that we will have that proposed funding. Moving into the next part of my presentation is our accomplishments. It's been a whirlwind of a year, and it's hard to believe that we're almost to June, but there were some things that did happen that I'm pretty proud of and excited to talk about. We were awarded a $41,000 grant from the New York State Child Nutrition Department in conjunction with Farm to School. This money will help us provide minimally processed foods to be implemented into our menu, which works right along with our commitment to farm to school. We are partnering with Onondaga County to have a bid that will work with schools across the county. We're all working together. And from that, we will get a Harvest of the Month. So we will be featuring in September our Harvest of the Month offerings, which will become, which will be sourced locally. All of the things have to become part of the writing of the proposal is that the food is locally sourced. So we will kick off in September what we are going to try and call across districts, Central New York Wednesdays, and we will have meal offerings that reflect products that are in, hopefully right out of our own backyard, but within the region. This development of farm to school is in its infancy, but you know, as one of my passions, I think that we will see in the upcoming school year much more commitment, more offerings, and I think it's a great way to foster relationship between community and school. So I'm happy that this was able to get off the ground, and I know that Syracuse City School District worked diligently to try and get a Harvest of the Month and was very welcoming for any of the surrounding schools to jump on board to get better competitive pricing. So it's slow process, but I feel like it's been worth it, and we're going to reap the benefits in September. So the other thing that we were able to bring back, one of my favorite things to do are the wellness activities in the elementary levels. We were able to bring back smoothie making and related activities to some elementary clubs. And then in the upper levels, we were able to bring back sampling. It was a little slow out of the gate. You know, I think trying to figure out how to implement it now that the kids were back to what we call pre-COVID limitations, and so the response was great. So it's encouraging to continue to do that in the upcoming school year as well. And then lastly, we have one retirement that has been announced from our department. Maureen Hennessy, who has been at Reynolds Elementary as our food service worker 2, has retired, has decided to retire. She put in 25 years of service, and another one that was committed to this community. It's a sad day to see her go, but I have to be honest, I wish her well. She deserves a break. And again, it's going to be a hole that's going to be hard to fill. Oh. And that's pretty much all I have.
Any questions for Ms. Rice?
No question, but I know that you've got a lot of challenges. They aren't new. I mean, challenges have been there. I guess the COVID relief gave you a little bit of breathing room, maybe. It's ironic, but you know, I appreciate everything that you're doing. It's, you know, you can't go out there like a restaurant and charge $15 for lunch and make a little profit. You're just trying to scrape by with what you have, and you know, keep the cost reasonable for kids coming in. So, you know, I think that we recognize the challenges that you have, and really do truly appreciate everything you're doing for the kids.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Sounds like it's been a challenging year, but thanks to you and your staff for putting forth a big effort. Given the price increase in food, how is the financial situation?
One of the things that we are tracking to be, without giving you exact numbers, but we are not in, we will come on the right side again this year. And part of that is lack of staff. We have really bared down and did the best with what we have, and that part of the budget line was not chewed up. Having said that, the students that are participating are committed to participating, and a la carte items have helped that. I know that that's an area that you struggle. My commitment is a meal, but the a la carte sales for those items that they want, just one item, does help, so.
Breakfast is still really, really popular? Is that-
Breakfast is an area that we will struggle with. It jumped up in participation when it was free. We settled right back into those low numbers again. So there are some things that we're working on in the upper levels to stimulate, because that's where it becomes the elementary is the strongest, and then as they get older, it declines. So there are some things, and that was one of our samplings that we worked on, are some innovative things to try and implement in September to try and increase those reimbursable amounts. So
Lastly, what's the free and reduced rate?
we are hovering around 37%.
Thank you, and please pass along our thanks to you, Stan.
I will. I couldn't do it without them.
Thank you both. You're doing great things for the district, and congratulations to Maureen. If you're out there watching, we're gonna miss you, and thank you for all you've done for the district. At this point, we're gonna have Mr. Cardamone and Danielle come up and give us the kindergarten readiness update.
We're excited to just give you a brief overview of how great UPK's been going, and just give you an update. So the UPK day is busy. It is centered on play. But there's a lot of academics that go on. So as far as literacy goes, they are getting a strong foundation coming into kindergarten. So they're using some of our core programs that we use in the upper grades, such as foundations, integrity, which are our phonics and phonemic awareness programs. A lot of literature, a lot of big books, activities around those, and then using the New York State modules for pre-K, which are pretty strong, as they're theme-based. And so from there, the teachers have really created units of study based on those themes. After each section, we did leave a little, we surveyed the staff, UPK staff, to ask them what they saw as most powerful this year, given that this is our first full year with it. So you can read those later if you'd like, but you're going to see a lot of positive feedback from the teachers.
When it comes to growing students' numeracy skills, we also use the math modules provided through New York State, but the focus continues to be on learning what school is all about, learning routines, learning procedures, but also learning through play. And so we incorporated some pictures of hands-on materials that our pre-K students are deeply involved with each and every day in order to build those numeracy skills. Things as simple as learning what the names of the numbers are, to counting up to 10 is ultimately a goal in pre-K, which then doubles as they move on to kindergarten. Understanding patterns, being able to sort, and learning some general vocabulary: what's small, what's big, what's tall, what's heavy, what's more than or less than, the same as, what comes first in a line, what comes last in a line. So in those pictures, you see some of the students applying those hands-on materials as they build those numeracy skills. And again, feedback from our teachers, as I mentioned, one of our main goals in pre-K is to just foster that level of learning early on, get students in school and get them accustomed to what that classroom environment's all about. So in kindergarten, they're able to dig deeper into each of those different areas.
So social skills, which is, it's hard to segment these all go together. It's a very strong component of pre-K. The second step curriculum, which I know you've heard Mackie talk about before, is used here. It's used a little bit differently, that the teachers are using it as part of their core instruction versus the social worker coming in and teaching it, because there's such a community. So they're together all day, and they have lunch in the classroom. That's part of their curriculum. So the teachers have really spent time to talk about how do you engage students during lunch, put them in certain groups, talk about the food they're having, just engage in conversation. That oral language is just so important at this age. So using social skills, taking the time to use the puppets that come with Second Step to have them talk about their feelings, or if they're having a tough day, just getting them to express themselves. This was really a big piece of pre-K. You'll see that on the next page. Comments from the teachers again, that's what they're seeing.
And we couldn't go without sharing some of the pictures of rest time with our fours. They are allowed that time to just rest. They don't necessarily have to quote unquote nap, but they do need that time, again, being just 4 years old, to rest comfortably. So other than that, the last piece that we wanted to close with is just to reinforce that in pre-K, it's important that our students feel safe, that they feel comfortable in their learning environments, they're learning their classroom routines and procedures, and they're ultimately building that confidence that's going to last as they progress through the grade levels. So with that, we're happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Thank you for coming. I just have a quick question. What, and when we did the tours, we were able to ask the kindergarten teachers, well, what do you see as in the kindergarten classroom as a benefit from the pre-K, as far as acceleration or whatever the terms may be? But
So I think the kindergarten teachers saw a little bit this year, but again, the kids didn't start till February. I'm not going to say they didn't learn anything between February and June, but I think seeing what's going on in pre-K now, so we've had meetings, met with the kindergarten teachers to discuss how this could impact them, meaning that the kids know schools. They're going to get groups of kids now, a bigger number of kids who've learned school and the routines. So as a kindergarten teacher, I might have said I can't start centers until maybe November, December, because it takes that long to teach them that. Well, that's probably not going to be the case overall anymore. So in all the buildings right now, except for Van Buren, there's pre-K, so I've talked to the principals about giving kindergarten teachers some time to go down to visit. At the same time, they have curriculum time this summer. You'll see when Renee and I come to the next board meeting to talk about summer professional learning. They're going to have curriculum time, and part of that time we've already talked about is re-looking at their first 10 weeks of school, their first 40 days, the first 40 days of school. And what adjustments might they need to make? So it's really more on pacing and differentiating. It's not that the kids are going to come and they're not going to need the kindergarten curriculum, but they're going to have to look at their pacing and then how do they differentiate more than they've probably done before. It's almost size.
Thanks. Can I just ask, what do you expect UPK to be enrolled, the enrollment number for the fall?
We'll be at our max, 198 pre-K students.
So maybe roughly half of kindergarten class, something like that?
Roughly half. We're seeing about 350 for kindergarten.
And just more curiosity than anything is, so do you differentiate, you try to keep UPK kids together in kindergarten? Do you disperse them among other kids? Is there any?
Yeah, you don't really, I don't think that's how the principals approach it. It's an interesting question though. I think it's really just looking at the data from the exit of UPK, then the screening of the incoming kindergartners who haven't been to our UPK. Again, we get incoming kindergartners who've been to other UPKs, and then just looking at building those groups like they do at any other grade. So yeah, it's interesting. It's hard for our kindergarten teachers. They're used to screening all their incoming kids, so that's a big change for them. I said, well, the first grade teachers don't screen all the kids coming from you, so. But it's good. They're seeing already those that have had the chance. I've talked to a couple who've had the chance to go down to pre-K and are astounded to see some of the work that these kids are able to do.
Tony, today we talked about we talked about 115 today in cabinet. Are we servicing 115 for the fall or 198?
115 was the number that we were using to reference the overall number of sections pre-K through 5 that we currently have, which ends up being the same number of sections that we will have next school year, although the amount of sections at each grade level does differ based on student enrollment.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Benny?
Sure.
So is the max for UPK students, the allowance is 190? No.
The max that we are required to staff, so one teacher and one teaching assistant, we can have 18 students in a classroom. We can add another teaching assistant and go up to a max of 20 students under the universal pre-K federal allowances.
I guess my question is, how many UPK students is our district allowed to have?
Under the grant.
Under the grant, we have approximately 335 seats that are funded. So we're not utilizing all of the
We're
funding
not, that was gonna be
that
my
we have
question.
available.
So there's openings available for,
If we had room for additional sections to be housed, we could potentially staff those sections and have more than 198 students who receive universal pre-K. I will add that we are not seeing a very high number of students enrolling for 4-year-olds. So although we will have a full program at 198, we do currently have a wait list that is not very long. So we're not seeing that 350 student kindergarten enrollment in our pre-K program at this time.
so, but we do have to turn students away for UPK, is what you're saying, at this time?
I can chime in here.
Thanks.
So every family that submitted by the deadline is in. We were not guaranteeing anybody after that. So there were a few families that we were able to add because on a first come, first served basis, we still had some seats based on the number of sections that we had. But at this point, there is a wait list because we have to stop someplace. You know, that is one area that if we had more space, we could add more sections. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense for us to add an additional teaching assistant because we want to try to keep the class sizes reasonable, and you know, there's a lot going on there. As they've mentioned, students are getting used to the idea of school and interacting with others. So at this point, there is a wait list, but everyone who's met the deadlines for enrolling, which, I mean, they were coming in left and right until that deadline happened in April, has basically received word that they're in and the location at this point.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. With Azan showing up, I think we're going to go back and allow Azan to do his student report.
So I was late, but whatever, here now. So it's kind of similar to the last meeting where there's just a lot of normal end of the year stuff going on. Yeah, so we'll just start at Baker. I saw a lot of you at Culture Fest actually. Culture Fest turned out great this year. There was, I think, around 200 people that showed up. And being that I knew both of the kids that were running it, they were both super thrilled with the amount of kids that showed up, both the amount of people that showed up, and then all of the participation. I would say there was a wide array of different cultures that were represented, and whether it be like the dancing that was going on or the food that was tasted, it was great. I think Culture Fest has always been a good thing, and it's continued to improve throughout the years. Moving on to more sports kind of things, girls crew is going to nationals. They're leaving Wednesday. There's 11 girls going, I think. Yeah, there's 11 girls going. They leave Wednesday. It's not very often that we have a team go to nationals, so it's definitely a huge deal, and we wish them the absolute best of luck. I know a lot of them are super excited. I don't know, crew, I don't know, it's just a good thing. They've done well this season. Girls and boys golf sectionals are tomorrow, so also good luck to them. And the girls' regular golf season just ended for the kids that are moving on to sectionals. I've mentioned it, I think, 3 or 4 times now, but the art showcase is Thursday the 25th. That's definitely something that you want to attend. They set most of it up already, and the art, per usual, is spectacular. I know there's a lot of art going on. I've mentioned that every time, so you get the point. There's like, we're counting down the days in all of my classes now that are left in the school year. So it's like around the corner, very approachable. And graduation is in like a month. Today's the 22nd, and graduation is the 23rd, I think. So as a senior, that's kind of surreal. It's kind of just like, all right, like it's super exciting, but it's also like,
so much is gonna change. Like all of our teachers are talking right now, like if you've got files that you need to move over to your own account, that you gotta like get your files over, and just like stuff like that is not something that I was like actively thinking about, but we'll get on it. You guys heard a lot about wellness, but Wellness Day is Thursday at Baker. I mentioned it once already, I think. We're running a modified schedule, and there was something like 40 different activities that we could sign up for, so that'll be exciting. I know a lot of you also took the Special Olympics, and that's something that everyone knows about, but that happened, and there was a ton of us at Baker. Some of the elementary kids were out there, and I think Durkee also had some kids out there. I got to go out there during gym and then during my bio class, and it's always an exciting thing to see that we have a good special ed program here, and it's just nice to see that we have an event like that that goes on, and the kids always look thrilled. So I don't know, it's just nice to see, and it was nice that we got to go out there and support them. Moving on to Eldon, Mr. Coughlin tells me that he's been teaching a 5th grade class Spanish a little bit, and he plans on doing another lesson this week. I know the AP French kids also went to 3rd grade at Eldon, and we're teaching them some. And then my AP Spanish class was in, well, we're in 4th grade, so we did 2 days last week and then 2 days this week. Being a teacher looks it's harder than it seems, I guess. Like walking into a 4th grade classroom and trying to like have a, like we tried to go in with like, we were teaching like simple zoo animals, but they didn't want to learn zoo animals, so we had to teach them like house animals instead. But then of course like you want to teach them a dog, and the kid's like, well, how do you say hippopotamus? So instead, I don't know, it's just difficult. They're like, they want to learn though, and they're retaining stuff, but it's just like, you go in and you're like, all right, this is how you say like, what's your name, and like, how are you feeling today, or like basic emotions and stuff like that, and it's just not where they're at. But it's also 1 o'clock in the afternoon, almost 2, so whatever. 2 more days, but it's fun. Durkee, there's 2 concerts going on at Baker this week with Durkee students. Orchestra is Wednesday and chorus is Thursday. There's also a chorus concert happening right now. It might have just gotten over at Baker for our chorus. And then at Van Buren, the PTA Spring Carnival was last Friday, which included members of the Baldwinsville Public Library. There was information about summer programs, and the Beeville Fire Department came out with a bucket truck. Did I say that right? Yeah. There's also spring field trips. They talked about those, I think, that McNamara was doing, but elementary kids always go on field trips. So they're going to the zoo, the Wild, Beaver Lake, Camp Tooele, and the Oswego Children's Museum. I believe it was, yeah, Palmer is also doing something similar, so their 5th grade has an upcoming field trip to Camp Tooele. At Reynolds, the Downbeat Percussion Drumline visited on May 10th. There were pictures of that, and the kids looked excited. And the only other thing is from Palmer, they're doing a yearbook swap, well, they're coordinating a yearbook swap, and I guess that's also just kind of surreal. Like, I remember in elementary school how big of a deal that was to, like, on the last day of school, like, everyone passing around their yearbooks, and I don't know, it'll be interesting, because, like, the senior walk is also coming up soon. It's all these things that are all hitting me, like, I guess the senior walk is this day. I don't know, the year's coming to an end, but it's an exciting end. So, it's as chaotic as that was, that's students. There's one more, and at the next one I plan on doing like highlights of the year, so hopefully administrators will have like a student highlight of the year that will be exciting to report on, so that's it.
Thank you, Azan. And we look forward to your last 2 reports before you're out of here, so thank you. With that, I believe we're down to textbook adoptions.
So this text is on for first reading. It's for the new astronomy course. We've had it available. It was in the weekly letter. It will be on the agenda for final approval at our next meeting on June 5th. If there was any specific questions, we do have a copy of it. If you would like to take a look at it, feel free to contact either myself or Christy Null, and we'll get it to you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, with that, we'll move on to new business. 11A, resolved that the Board of Education approve the Baldwinsville Central School District Policy 3410, Policy 3411, and Policy 3412, revised, reviewed pursuant to the attached. Have a motion?
Oh.
That Matt? Second? Second. Wayne? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Now we're down to 9 now, or we're up to 9. Okay, 9-0. Thank you. Moving on to 11B, resolve that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent and/or designee to sign the attached agreement with King & King Architects pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Wayne? Oh, that was Matt. Second? Same? Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 9-0. Moving on to 11D, resolve that the Board of Education approve the agreement between the Baldwinsville Central School District and Roxanne Miller pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion? Wayne? Second? Matt? Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
That's where we're at. Oh, no. Yeah, I think it's just.
Moved on too quick. Okay. Let's go back. My apologies. 11C, resolve that the Board of Education approve the agreement between Baldwinsville Central School District and Service for Education Management pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion? Wayne?
Second.
Matt? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. Do that resolution again? We're good? Okay. Okay, moving on to E.
Did we vote on Roxanne? Yeah.
Yep.
We just
Did it over. Okay, resolve that the Board of Education approve the agreement between the Baldwinsville Central School District and the Greater Baldwinsville Ambulance Corps pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion?
Well,
Shelley?
Second.
Matt? Any discussion?
Just, in reference to the conversation that went on during agenda planning, this is something that should probably be considered for the reorg meeting as well, to have those services available throughout the school year. Dr. Davis recommended that, and I think that's appropriate.
And just for clarification, this is to have ambulance service at graduation, so instead of doing it for specific events, just have something available for the year. So we don't have to keep approving that, so. Okay, definitely have for the board for next year. So on this one, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. 11F, resolve that the Board of Education approve the Onondaga, Cortland, Madison annual service agreements pursuant to the attached. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Matt? Second?
Second.
Wayne? Any questions?
Can I just ask in terms of financial cost, one year over the other, any much change here? Or didn't see
these are more about who can sign what as opposed to the actual BOCES
Okay.
invoice bill, which I think you're referring to.
that? Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. G, resolve that the Board of Education approve the disposal of surplus equipment and instructional materials pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion?
Move.
Matt, second?
Second.
Wayne? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes 9-0. Lastly, H, resolve that the Board of Education amend and approve the girls' crew team to travel and participate in the Scholastic Rowing Association of America Championship Regatta, May 26 through 27, 2023, at Melton Lake in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, pursuant to the attached addendum. I have a motion.
Move.
Second.
Don and Shelley. Any discussion, any clarification? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 9-0. It's too in that section. Board roundtable, I believe Shelley, don't quote me on that, but it was brought up to the board that, given our resignation of our board president and me being done on June 30th, that we would have a gap there of about 10 days. So the thought was that this board would potentially do a leadership vote prior to the June 10th, so that we have potentially some, obviously that would only work out if somebody who's staying on the board became either the president or vice president. So I guess I would propose that we put that on the agenda for next meeting. Just so everybody's aware, unless somebody, discussion needs to be had about that. Okay. Okay, that's all I wanted to bring up. Vic?
Just a thought, I was at the board meeting when Wayne discussed, he'd attended the Arts Hall of Fame, which I commend you for establishing that. I think it's a great idea. But it occurred to me that we also have an athletic Hall of Fame that's, I think, has been rather inactive lately. So I was just hoping to encourage maybe Mr. Campolito to get a committee together or something to start talking about that. I think I can name a few worthy participants in the recent years.
Can I comment real quickly? So that is something that Chris is working on, and the intent is that at the next athletic awards ceremony at the end of the school year for 23-24, that they will have an induction ceremony. So they're working on that.
I believe at least senior day for the baseball, there was was that an induction into the?
So each different teams have their own through the booster club, some Hall of Fame recognition. So they're, like baseball does that. There's some other sports that do that as well. This is a district-wide that really, Victor is correct, hasn't been active in quite a few years, but that will be revitalized for an induction ceremony in the spring of 23-24.
I didn't realize those were independent of the district-wide one. Okay, thank you. Anything else for board roundtable?
I just want to make a brief comment. I wasn't able to attend the special Board of Ed meeting last Wednesday, in which the resignation of Jennifer Petrino was publicly announced. So I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge and thank Jen for her 6+ years of dedication to the Board of Education, our district, our community, and most importantly, to all of our students. Jen served for 3 years as board president, providing valued leadership, of which included countless hours preparing for meetings, handling communications, attending workshops and conferences, along with sitting on many board and district committees. I've watched and learned under Jen's leadership, and I thank her for taking the helm during turbulent times within our district, as well as always being there for all board members to assist or provide guidance on processes and to better understand our role as board members. She always asks questions to better understand how we as a board can do better for our students and district, and I'll continue to do the same. I learned just a few weeks ago that Jen had been contacted by Sandra Rufo, our Area 4 NYSBA representative, that she had received the Lifetime Achievement Award for NYSBA School Recognition Program, the highest level to obtain. Jen achieved this just under 6 years. Congratulations to Jen. Jen was an asset to this board and district. Her commitment and leadership has made a positive impact in moving our district forward, and her absence on the board will surely be felt. So, thank her for her dedication and service to the board and the district.
Shelley, I want to say thank you for bringing that into space, because Jen Petrino was a really wonderful collaborator and a collegial partner who taught me a lot about examining policy better, asking tough questions, and I really value, and I want to just affirm and validate that. And I know we often did not agree on certain issues. I'm just grateful that we were able to engage in dialogue to come to deeper understandings about different topics. She brought my awareness and increased my awareness about a lot of things related to this work that we do as volunteers, and I'm just truly honored and privileged to have worked with her. So to Jen Petruna, thank you for your service, and thank you for being such a true exemplar of what leadership should look like. Thank you.
Okay, any other topics for the board? Okay. With that, I will make a motion for executive session to include Baptist. Oh, yes, where is that line?
It's right in the public section. Right on the screen.
Motion for exec session to discuss employment history of particular people in negotiations. I think I'm looking for a second, correct?
Second. Go ahead.
Wayne? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second? Or no, opposed? Sorry, Tony's head popped up there.
Tony,
Okay.
Tony, you're gonna go on the Google Meet link.
We will meet in 5 minutes. We're gonna go in the other room, correct?